About a week ago, a friend of mine named Cade passed away in a car wreck not too far from his house. It's probably been 15 years since I talked to Cade. And man, there's a lot of guilt that goes with saying that. I didn't keep in touch, but it's good that people like me show up at times like this. So we can remind you that even though that hole where someone's supposed to be, it never fills in. But people like Cade, they're kind of like the bacteria that lives in your stomach. You don't see them, but they still live inside you. And I want to share one of those stories that lives inside of me. I met Cade when I was teaching at Texas A&M. I was a prof for Math 141. And Cade was one of my students. And after he was one of my students, he was one of my friends. And through all that time, and even after we stopped keeping in touch as well, I always called him brother. When you call someone brother, there's something that goes with that, right? And I got the stories, man. I got the dirt. But I'm not going to tell those stories today. I want to tell one from when he was one of my students. I didn't run a normal classroom. I did a lot of stuff that was a little bit weird. In my defense, I was just out of school myself. I didn't know what to do. And one of the things I encouraged in my classroom was heckling. It kept me on my toes, kept my students awake and engaged. I thought win-win. And nobody took that to heart more than Cade. He and his friend Tom, they were relentless in their heckling in class. And honestly, it was fun. It was good times. But heckling's one of those things that it can always go too far. And they never did. They never said anything that was insulting or derogatory. But it can go too far in a different way. It can go too much. It can go too often. And they crossed that line. So much so that some of their peers were getting pretty upset. In fact, one of the girls in the class sent me an email. Said, you've got to take control of your classroom. You need to rein in all these distractions and disruptions. We don't need the stories and the jokes. We need the learning. And those two gentlemen in the back, they're disrupting my education, and you need to put a stop to that heckling. And honestly, I put up with a lot of stuff in my classroom. I was pretty lenient about a lot of things, but once people start complaining, that's when you got to shut it down. So I forwarded that email on to Tom and Cade. And I believe I asked him to ratchet it down. I didn't even ask him to stop, just ratchet it down. And they sent back an email pretty quickly that said, I believe I'm quoting, "You got it, boss." Done deal. I thought we were good. I thought everything was fine. I show up to class the next time. And that class, sometimes I worked on transparencies, but this class I wrote on the board behind me, right? And, so I turn to face the board and I'm writing the first problem up. And I hear it's an unmistakable sound, and you know it. I can't make the sound, but it's the whack of duct tape leaving the roll. And I turn around, and Cade and Tom, they're both, they're covering their mouth with the duct tape. And it's about this time that I notice Tom is wearing like a polo and khakis. Like he's actually like dressed. I mean, he wore shorts and flip flops I think every day of his life. And then Cade has got a suit, like tie, jacket. He's got a suit on, and they're duct taping themselves. But look, you know what? I don't even know what it looks like for these guys to dress up. So as far as I know, they accessorize with duct tape. I don't know. And who am I to judge? I'm certainly not supposed to disrupt. So I turn right back around and go back to teaching. A little bit later, I hear this. So I turn around and Cade's got his hand up in the air. Now, he obviously isn't going to ask a question. He's holding up a dry erase board. I look at it. What? I think you? He nods his head and he pulls it back down, wipes it off real quick, scribbles some more. I think you forgot the 2? Oh, I think you forgot the 2. Oh. So I turn around and I start looking for where I made a mistake on the board. I was like, wait. Oh, I see. Is it here? Oh man, that went on through the whole class. Seriously, it was nonstop. And you got to keep in mind, there's only 4 people in that room who have any idea what's happening. Me, the girl who sent the email, Tom, and Cade. And I mean, seriously, this was the entire class period. And that's probably the best description of Cade I got. He, you challenge him. You drop the gauntlet. Oh, challenge accepted. Let's dance. But he'd have his fun. He would. But he was a good guy. And he always did the right thing. And for the rest of that class, for the rest of that semester, he and Tom never once heckled me. There were a couple other things I didn't do. I never took attendance. You see, at Texas A&M, calling roll, it means something. We do that once a year. It's something called Aggie Muster. And this year's muster is coming up in a couple weeks. And during muster, we call roll for the people who died that year. And friends and family answer here. And I could go into all the stuff around it and the whatever. I could do all that, but that's not important right now. What matters for the sake of this discussion is somewhere in 2 weeks. Somewhere there's a muster where someone's going to call Cade's name. And I know at that muster, his brothers and his friends, they're going to answer here. I'm not going to be there. So I hope y'all will allow me to break tradition and answer the way I think Cade would have answered for me.